Hi and welcome on this channel. My name is Maureen. If you're new here, we talk about mindset, we talk about breathwork, and we talk about spirituality. And today we are going to chat about how everything happens for a reason and why. So I've been really struggling with recording this episode. I don't think I've ever struggled as much to record something. I think I'm just having a hard time conveying the right words and in the way that I want to say it. I have a lot of ideas that I do want to say in this episode, and it's just really hard for me to kind of formulate it in a way that is understandable because in my head, I can understand it, the concepts that I'm going to share, but somehow it just doesn't go out the way that I wanted to. So here's me trying for like the third time to record this and kind of make sure that things have sense and are somewhat organized. So I do want to start by saying, when we say everything happens for a reason, there are first both a kind of human side and another spiritual side that I want to talk about today. So when I'm thinking of the human side, and when someone tells you, oh, everything happens for a reason, blah, 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 it tends to kind of piss people off because it means that we don't have control over that. It means that, oh, everything happens for a reason, then I don't have control over what happens. And I think it tends to really trigger us as humans because for millions of years, we have integrated that knowledge and planning and organizing is safety. And therefore, if we're safe, we can survive, which is kind of, the intention with humanity and all the races, animals in the world is about survival. Keep on living. So I think it's really ingrained in us that we want to plan, we want to have a certain sense of control over things, and when things don't go the way we want them to, it's really nerve-wracking because it completely wrecks a plan that we thought we had control of, even though we don't have control over things. And then we have to start again. And we lose this sense of safety when suddenly all of our plans kind of go to the water. So I think this is the very human side of everything happens for a reason, or everything happens at the right time. And this is when I'm going to enter a little bit more of spirituality. So within spirituality, there's two sides that I would like to talk about. First, there is kind of the energy side, positive and negatives. And second, there's the timeline that I want to talk about today. So talking about the timeline, sometimes things happen certain ways. Let's say we wanted something and it doesn't happen. And maybe it will happen later. And then this is when it involves timeline, because sometimes we are not ready for something to happen. Even though we think we are ready, it just doesn't happen somehow. And that might mean that it might happen later. It might also never happen. We don't know. It might also happen a little bit later when we're finally ready and, we've understood certain things and we've put other things into place. And then it's just a matter of being patient about, welcoming things. And, time is very tricky. It's something that kind of rules our lives. Literally, it rules our lives. And it's such an interesting concept that we've created time to put an understanding on how everything works. And then within those timelines, there are different types of events happening. And all these events, we don't have really control over nothing. And I do believe there's a higher power, call it God, call it the universe, call it Buddha. I don't know how you want to call it, but I do believe there's a higher force at stakes, and that we don't understand half of what is happening here on this earth. There are things that we cannot explain. There are people that we meet, that we're linked to, and again, we cannot explain how we're meeting them, things like that. And what I'm trying to say today is that we think we have control over our lives. And that's why, we think that our lives are organized and that we can plan things out. In reality, everything is already written and we do make certain choices, but we're not really in control of anything, really. And so having this sense of time, because our lives are regulated by time, we have an age, like you're born until a certain age, over 100 years old. Let's say you live until 100 years old, then you have certain types of events happening in this life. And these events will just kind of ricochet onto other people's lives, because whatever choices we make also have consequences on other people's lives. And I'm going to come back to this in the energy part of the spiritual side of it. But there are really these forces that, these events and these forces that we cannot really control, and that are going to have repercussions on other people's life. And we don't have control over that. We don't have control over how it's going to affect other people's lives. So sometimes things are supposed to happen a certain way, or they're not supposed to happen a certain way. But you have to believe that everything happens at the right time, at the right moment that it's supposed to happen. It was a very hard concept for me to welcome in, because as everyone, I do love to organize, I do love to plan, and I do love to think that I have some control over my life. And in a way we do, but there's so much that we just can't plan. And especially when it's something negative, we don't want to plan the negative. Like, who wants to plan that? We want to think about the positive, the beautiful things. But negative things need to happen in order to create a balance in this world as well for the positive. And that is what I want to talk about in the second part of the spiritual side, which is the yin and yang. I want to talk about quantum entanglement. I sound very smart, but it's actually a friend who talked to me about this, and I love reading and researching about quantum physics because it has so much value, and it's kind of like the science of the spiritual world, kind of. So science of the universe. And it's so fascinating. If you ever have the chance to look a little bit into quantum physics, do it. It's really good. So anyway, I was kind of researching about quantum entanglement, and what it was basically saying is that there are these photons in the world, and they all have a twin. And so one twin is facing one direction, the other twin is facing the other. And no matter where they are in the world, whether they are close, whether they are far, if one switches position, the other one switches direction as well. And so they're always opposite to each other. And when the researchers did a photo visualization of it, you can look it up, by the way, online, they've actually noticed that it looks like the freaking yin and yang. I kid you not. I'm gonna try to find a picture or something. If you're looking at the video of this, I'm gonna put a picture. If you're listening to the podcast version of this, you can look it up online as well, and you'll find pictures of this. It's the yin and yang. It looks like the yin and yang. And so I wanted to bring this up today because wherever we are in this world, there's always positive and negative forces at play. Again, no matter where, no matter how close or far they are, whatever positive situation there is, it will create a negative situation somewhere else in this universe, in this world, just to create that balance that we actually need. And so same when we tend to think, oh, why did this horrible thing happen to me? Then it probably means that there was a positive outcome that needed to happen, and in order to balance this horrible thing needed to happen. I know that probably if you're listening to this right now, you're like, what is she saying? That like I have to suffer to make someone else happy, and that if I'm happy it makes someone else's, like something horrible happens to someone else. Like, what are you saying about this balance? I know it's hard to hear, but I do really believe in this hypothesis, and something negative happening doesn't mean that it's actually bad. You know, there can be some negative outcomes, but then people learn so much from it despite it being hard. They learn so much from it, and then later in their lives they just look back on it and they just think, thank God this actually happened, because I've learned to do this and this, and I wouldn't be where I am today if this didn't happen. So when I mean something negative happens, it's not necessarily something bad, and it can be really sad and hard to go through, but it doesn't mean that it's necessarily a bad thing, you know? So don't panic when I'm telling you that, you know, if something bad happens to you, it's just so that there's a balance in the world, because again, not everything is you know, a bad thing. It can actually help other people. Even in the most horrible of situations, you can learn so much from it, and somehow it's helping other people around. So in this case, everything does happen for a reason, because all of the events that we have a repercussion on other people's lives. You know, whatever choice we make, whatever we do, there's always consequences, positive or negative. Again, like just imagine the yin and yang for every situation in the world. So whatever choice we have, this creates an outcome somewhere in the world. And I'm not saying this so that you never, you know, make decisions, or not so that you never make a plan, because I think you totally should. But I think it's really interesting to know about these types of stuff, and to that maybe think that there is a balance in this world, and that there is, you know, timeline involved, and that understanding how our human brain works within this environment as well, because we tend to have this need to rationalize things a lot. And so that's why it's really hard for us to maybe hear about yin and yang and like positive outcome, negative outcome, timeline, stuff like that, when we always need proof, we always need to plan, we always need to organize, we need to rationalize things also that are happening to us. You know, when something happens to us, we just think, why is this happening to me? Like, literally, why? Why me? Why not someone else in this world? And again, everything happens for a reason. This was meant to be in some type of way. This was meant to be, and somehow, positive or negative, it's gonna help you. And I guess it's also a reminder to say that we don't have control over anything in this world. We don't. We can make choices. We have control over our actions, over what we say, but we don't have control over, you know, everything else, literally everything else around us, around other people's behaviors, or around situations, things like that. And you know, there's a sentence used by Tony Robbins that you might have heard, that I really like, is that it's not happening to me, it's happening for me. And this makes a huge difference into mindset, when, you know, this victim mentality, saying it's happening to me, why me? Whereas thinking it's happening for me. Whatever happens, it's happening for me. There's a lesson in this. There's something I need to learn. And whatever I'm going to do with this information, it's going to have an impact on other people's lives. What kind of impact do I want to have into people's lives? You know, and then we have control. Again, we have control over the actions that we're doing. So maybe things that are happening for us, events that are happening or not happening for us, is going to make us help other people. It's going to make us do certain actions that are going to have consequences on other people's lives, because we're all in this together, okay? It's not just us. Like, we're all connected somehow. We're all connected to each other. Whatever decision we make in this life is connected to other people. And even sometimes people that you don't know. We're all in this together on this big planet. And I think that's also the beauty of it. And remembering that maybe into this big universe, we're just very, very small, like photons together, trying to create a balance in this world of positive and negatives. How insane is that, honestly? And I've really tried to do my best to, make it understandable. And I hope that you really like this episode. So this is the end of these videos. I'm trying to do shorter videos as of now, so that it's a little bit more entertaining and I'm not repeating myself 1,000 times. If you've liked it, don't hesitate to subscribe, push the like button, press the little bell as well to get all the notifications of my next videos. You can also comment this video, let me know what you think, let me know your opinions, your experiences, your thoughts, etc. I would love to see them. And I guess I will see you in the next video. Okay, bye.